Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? Today is Wednesday, February 7th, 2017, and I'm here with Tom Hall. Tom Hall and I are board advisors of ICR 360, and last week we did an overview of a video series that we're conducting on keeping yourself, your family, and your community safe. Really, it's keeping yourself and your family safe, personal protection. And we're going to hit this in many different areas, from traveling security to even if you're just out exercising, looking at hotels is what we're talking about today. And this is going to be very important for a lot of people because it's interesting to me because Tom and I have had an opportunity to travel a lot, but I personally see a lot of people doing the wrong things in the lobby with their rooms, kind of hearing them on the phone, things like that. And we want to highlight some of these because this is very, very important. We're going to be talking a little bit about international travel. And international travel, especially for Americans, you really need to be on your toes these days because not everybody is super ecstatic about some of our policies at the moment, Tom. So you got to be on your toes. And it's an ever-changing world. You just need to be more aware of what's going on around you. And here in a minute, I'll let Tom introduce himself again. And one of the things, Tom, that really brings us kind of home is there was a very high-level case recently, an ESPN analyst, Erin Andrews, where she was actually videotaped through the peephole of her door. And a lot of people don't realize that there is equipment that you can use to kind of reverse that peephole where people can see in the peephole pretty clear. And when something that high profile can happen to somebody, this is something that a lot of people just take for granted. And we're going to highlight a lot of things tonight to help people remain safe. Tom, if you could do me a favor, Tom, just for one quick second, for those who haven't joined us on this video series, just introduce yourself really quick and kind of give us a few tips that you use when you're traveling, whether it's domestically or internationally.
Absolutely. Thank you, George. And hello, everyone. My name is Tom Hall, and my background is my prior career was in law enforcement. I spent the first 20 years of my career in law enforcement. Started my career out as a state trooper, and from there I progressed into the supervisory ranks. And I was as a sergeant, I ran the security detail for the governor's security detail. So of course we provided protection for the governor and the first family throughout the states and all the international travel. And I became a campus police chief. Did that for 3 years. I'm a rape and aggression defense instructor. I'm a member of the Line Lives Associates, which is an association of certified bodyguards. So personal protection is something I've grown up with. Personal protection is something close to my heart. And as George says, for me to give you a few tips on what I do to prepare for any sort of travel. Whether I'm going to travel domestically or internationally, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an inventory of the things I'm going to carry. I'm going to do an inventory of my wallet. This is my normal wallet, guys, ladies and gentlemen. It looks pretty, it looks pretty puffy, but do I need every item in it? Do I need every credit card in it? Do I need all these items with me when I go international? Besides my passport and my wallet, I'm going to inventory my wallet, and I'm only going to take the things that are absolutely necessary. And those things that I'm taking with me, I will photograph, make copies of, and have in a safe place where someone can have access in case I lose anything and I need some help. So the first thing I'm going to do is inventory what I'm taking with me, George. If I'm having that passport, I'm going to have an extra copy of it with me and an extra copy someplace back in the States. So if I do lose it, I can get that expedited help. Because when you have a copy of it, it's a lot easier to get a duplicate. So before I even do anything about travel, I'm going to do the inventories first and foremost. If you want to talk now about the luggage and packing, we'll go there, George. You want to do that next?
Well, let's take a second, Tom. And one of the things, that's something you do before, that's preparation. And this is a part that a lot of people really kind of mess up, is the preparation. They think, okay, I've got my clothes packed, I've got the things that I need, I've got my passport, I've got my reservations. But a lot of people aren't taking time when they're actually booking their hotels to really ask a few questions during the booking process. A lot of times we try to hurry through the booking process, but you want to make sure that when you're booking your hotel room, when you're on the phone with that reservation agent, you're asking some questions. Now, if you're doing this, and a lot of people do this these days on, what are some of the websites, Tom? Hotels.com, Kayak.com, Hotwire. Hotwire is a good one, and I'd like to talk about this really quick, Tom, because
Sure.
when you book through Hotwire, and the Hotwire doesn't actually tell you what hotel you're getting. They kind of tell you you're getting a hotel of this caliber, but you don't even know what hotel you're going to. You can't even ask questions about your hotel, so you got to make sure you have some questions when you get to the lobby. But you want to make sure that, and this is why it's always a good thing when you travel, even if you know somebody else who has been there, try to get recommendations of places people have stayed, so that you know you're staying at a hotel that has easy access. Just because it's close to an airport doesn't mean that it's easy access for that place. Sometimes there's construction going on around these places, and a lot of things can be happening that make it not so convenient. Even though it might be close to the airport or close to your meetings, it still may not be convenient. And you want to make sure you're getting places that you can get in and out of easy. You want to make sure you're getting places that are in good neighborhoods. Just because it's close to the airport doesn't mean it's in the best neighborhood in the city. So you want to know where you're going, and don't take these things for granted. Take time to research where it is that you're going. And you want to ask a few questions. You want to make sure, as you're getting into your hotel, and especially if you're not familiar with it all, especially if you're booking international travel, you want to make sure that you can ask simple questions. Hey, is there security here 24/7? Do all doors have deadbolts? There's some very basic things that you should know just going into that reservation. Tom, I've actually gotten to hotels before and didn't take the time to ask all the questions that I thought were necessary, which this is early on, I guess, in my career. And even though I had a reservation for those places, I've checked out and gone to different hotels. You're not tied to someplace. If you get someplace and you don't feel good about it, don't stay there just because you booked a reservation. Go somewhere else. Now, that was easy enough for me to do because I could still cancel that. However, sometimes you think, well, I can't lose that money. And I understand that. But if you don't feel good about someplace that you're going to be staying and you can still have the ability to check out of it, then do that. Tom? Tom, now,
Totally agree.
when you arrive, so you've booked your travel and you arrive at a hotel, what are some of the first steps you take upon arrival?
Well, it depends on how I'm getting there. If I rented a car and I come into the hotel, then I'm kind of do a kind of perimeter check on the hotel from the outside in. So if I drove a car, we have to park in a parking lot, which gives me an opportunity to look around the area, look around the parking lot. If there's a fire and we wind up coming outside, I want to be a little bit familiar with the areas of the hotel. Where are the exits outside? Where's the parking area? What does the lighting look like? You won't know exactly during the daytime, but you can get a good feel for the hotel while you're driving up there. If you came by taxi, first and foremost, make sure you keep your luggage with you. As soon as your taxi cab pulls up, in a lot of hotels, there'll be someone there ready and willing to take your bags. Do you want that individual to have all your bags? Because we want to talk a little bit about luggage. So you want to have all your bags. The first thing I'm concerned about, George, is who has access to my luggage. And I want to make sure if this gentleman has access to my luggage, that he stays within my eyesight. I don't want him and my luggage going somewhere. That I don't allow that to happen. Even if I want, we all have wheel baggage now. So generally, I handle my own luggage. I don't like to have my luggage out of sight. Most folks want the convenience of, hey, Mr. Wheeler, glad to have you here. What room are you in? 426? We'll have your bags there. Well, what's he doing with my bags in those 15 minutes that I don't get to see him? So I don't allow anyone to have access to my luggage. That's the first thing. Then I scrutinize the outside. Now I'm scrutinizing the lobby. When I go to that desk, I want to make sure that credit card is hidden from anyone that might be around me, peripheral. There's no talking on the cell phone where people can have conversations. There's some countries that don't enjoy the same amount of personal space as we might enjoy in the US. So people may be closer to you. So you want to keep a good check on the credit card. When they assign you a room number, that room number should be written. It should not be stated 468, sir. Now everybody in that hotel lobby knows that you're staying in 468. You're instructed to put the room number on it, written on it. And of course, George, I don't really want to stay above the 6th floor. I don't want to stay below the 4th floor, and I don't want to stay above the 6th floor if possible. So I try to get that done in advance to our reservations, because you and I both know firefighting equipment is more adequate when you're 6 floors or below. And I want to plan for what might happen. So those are some of the things I do. Now, this is even before we walk towards the elevator. But those are things that I'm going to do right at the front desk.
And Tom, I'd like to take a minute in talking about that because absolutely, you don't. Some people like to go above the sixth floor. They want the view out of their window. But for safety and security purposes, Tom's absolutely right. You don't want to go any higher than what the fire truck's equipment can reach you in the event that there's actually an emergency. And if you're on the first floor, or if you're in one of those floors where everybody has to come down to that floor to go to the gym or go to the pool, those are the floors that are the most vulnerable to people coming in with no real access to that floor. So you want to make sure that you're really out. Again, you have to know what floor the pool and the gym are on. Sometimes it seems like they're on the fourth or fifth floor. So I try to get, like Tom said, I try to get like no higher than the sixth, and I want to stay on like the third or the fourth or the fifth. Knowing, and I always say, is that the floor that the gym is on? If they say yes, I'll say, can I please have the floor above it or the floor below it? And that makes a lot of sense for people. I think when you're looking at it from a security standpoint, so many people when they're just out vacationing, they want those higher floors for those views. But you'll have plenty of time for views. You can always go up a lot of times to the higher floors and look out the window. You're not really spending much time looking out the windows anyhow. So don't worry about the view out of the hotel. It makes great pictures on your Facebook, which you shouldn't be posting until you get back anyways. But for your personal safety or your family safety, that's a really good tip that Tom just gave about the number of floors that you go up. Tom, also, I'd like to take a minute to talk about, we kind of take this for granted, you and I, if we're going someplace, because we're guys, we're security guys. We're always alert of what's happening around us, and we can take care of ourselves for the most part when things are happening. Now, we're still aware because we can still be bullied by either bigger people or people with weapons or multiple people. However, single females who are traveling, they have to take some extra steps here. And don't be afraid when you come into a lobby, if you're a woman and you're by yourself and you're checking in. First of all, I love what Tom says about making sure you know where your luggage is. I can't tell you the number of people that I've heard the horror stories of them in their bags that they had in sight. They always lose bags that they just took for granted somebody was taking care of, and it was hours later usually they realized, where is this bag? We've lost it, it's gone. But single females, when they check in, they should be looking at, could I have concierge or security even come up to my room with me and have them look, as you look around the room, have them stay there until you've checked that room thoroughly in that room when they close that door. And if you come in late at night, say you're out on town or out for business and you come in later at night, but either concierge or security to come up to that room with you. As a female, it's really important because you're hearing a lot of horror stories these days, and we're not doing this to scare everybody. We want everybody just to be safe and to be aware of your surroundings for people to come up with you. And Tom, I think that's a step that a lot of people really miss.
Absolutely. And George, would you allow me to digress a second and talk a little about the luggage? Now, even before you've gotten to the hotel, before you leave on your trip, you need to pack your bag. And this is where your safety and security starts, right in that piece of luggage. I fell in love even before they came up with the actual plastic bags, sealable plastic bags for packing. I used to use the plastic that you would get from a dry cleaner, George. Number one, it'll keep my clothes from being wrinkled as much. And when they're searching your bags in TSA, what I do, the way I pack, I've got each outfit in a plastic bag. And on the outside of that and on the inside of that plastic bag, I've got a card with my name on it, Tom Hall. So when they want to go through my bag, it's really easy. For each day, if I'm going to be gone 3 days, I got 3 bags here with shirt, socks, undies, and all in one bag, right? So I got to pack very, very neatly to make it easy for them to search my bag. Number two, once my bag is packed, I'm going to make sure that bag is going to be locked, and it's going to be locked with one of those TSA approved locks that they can access it if they need to access it. But I do have a lock. I prefer the combination lock because I lose keys, so I prefer having the combination lock on each one of my bags. Something real simple that I can remember. So now my bag is locked. Now, when you go to the airport, the color of choice in luggage, I have no idea why, is black. So mostly every piece of luggage that comes around the turnstile, George, is black. Well, how are you going to pick your luggage out from someone else? So come up with something creative, some sort of a ribbon something colorful that you can attach to each one of your bags to make sure your bag stands out in a crowd. So that's the number one thing is the luggage. The way you pack it, and make sure you pack in such a way that it's very visible when you see it. Now, I know I took you all the way back to luggage. So now you got your luggage and you're coming into the hotel. As we said earlier, we want to make sure that you stay in control of that luggage at all time. Now you're approaching the elevator. As George said, if you're a single female, we said take advantage of the services provided for the hotel, have an escort. I prefer, if I'm going to be going into the elevator, I want to know who's going in the elevator with me. If I look around and I see 4 or 5 persons going in the elevator and I don't feel comfortable in that space, I'm not going to get in the elevator. If I do feel comfortable, I'm going to get in the elevator. The place of the place of the most control in the elevator is going to be near the buttons where there's an alarm button and sometimes a phone. So that's actually where I would stand. I generally push my button last for my floor in case someone all of a sudden decides to be at the same floor I do. So I'm generally the last person to press the button. And if I'm not comfortable, I step out and take the next elevator.
That's right, Tom. It's funny because a lot of people feel, well, I don't want to offend anybody. If I get in an elevator and somebody else is in there and I don't feel right, it's just me being silly. I don't want to offend anybody. So they stay in that elevator. But don't do anything that puts you at risk. And we'll talk about in a different episode about how fear is your friend and how you actually use that to help raise your security awareness and keep yourself safe. One of the things, Tom, in packing, if my wife is going somewhere by herself, if she's with me, I kind of pack one way. If she's going by herself, I'll give her a few extra things that she can take to be safe. There are some portable security devices you can actually take for when you're packing. Sometimes you've actually seen some of those. There's a wedge that goes under the door. If somebody tries to open the door, the wedge stops it and maybe even puts off a siren. There's things you can hang on the door. So when people are trying to move the knob at night or something, it actually, once they touch it, it can actually sound the alarm. And those things are very, very inexpensive. And if you travel, especially if you're going to certain foreign countries, it's a good thing to always make sure you're taking every measure you can to keep yourself safe. And this is especially true for females who are traveling alone. So, Tom, once you're in your room, and one thing I think a lot of people also miss is kind of that security awareness of their lobby. They're just, sometimes, you're so caught up in, okay, I'm here, I'm either I'm really tired or I've got so much on my mind right now that they're not taking time to look around. When they get off the elevator on their floor, they're not really taking time to look where the utility rooms are. How many doors is it from the exit to my room? But those are little things that if you're really paying attention, you need to know, because in the event of a fire, if you have to get low to the floor, if there's dense smoke and you can't see, you got to know how far to go and which direction to go. And a lot of people miss those steps, Tom. Do you have any cases where you were in a hotel or you were doing fire drills for people and either they got turned around and kind of lost in their hotel, or you personally, where you had to actually use a situation like that?
Well, I've got one good story. I was a global security director for a government contractor, a very large government contractor, and our CEO and our director of communications were going into. And I came in to do a security briefing. I would brief all our folks before they would go overseas. And I made particularly sure to explain to them what to do once they arrive at the hotel. Most people, as soon as they arrive at the hotel, they're tired, exhausted. They want to find out where the restaurant is and where the bar is. But I trained our communications director. What I want you to do is, once you get our executive to the floor, you get him in his room, you go back out in the hallway. What floor is this? If this is the 4th floor and you're in room 422, like you said, George, how many doors ways do I have to touch? How many doors I have to touch on my hands and knees if it's smoky and it's fire and it's water to get to the stairwell? Know where the stairwell are. Is there any kind of fire extinguisher somewhere near my hotel door? Is there any kind of emergency lighting outside? So consider that if there's a fire, it's going to be dark. So I made sure that they had flashlights. He always had a flashlight with them in case something would happen. So he would have a flashlight. Well, guess what happened, George? The hotel they were staying in caught on fire. There was a fire alarm and the hotel was evacuated. He grabbed the CEO and said, tell the CEO, stay close to me. On their hands and knees, they made it to the stairwell. They went downstairs and they were safe. I felt so good about this, George, because I says, once you get there, find out how to get out of there, take the stairwell downstairs and know where it comes out. Before you put the CEO, you tuck him in at night, make sure that there's a go bag by his bed or by the door. And by that go bag, everything that he would need that's pertinent. So in the middle of the night, something happens. In his go bag, he's got his phone, he's got his passport, He's got some underwear. He's ready to just zip up, throw the bag on his back, and he's out the door. And guess what? The hotel caught on fire. That's what they had to do. They knew they needed to turn left. They'd go 4 doorways. They went down 5 flights of stairs. They went across the street as they watched the building burn. That's a true story, and that's one of the ones that I'm most proud of because it saved the life for our CEO.
It's always great when you have real stories that you can tell of situations where you were prepared, because that's the biggest thing that most people fail is they fail to plan, they fail to prepare. So when there actually is a crisis of some kind, it usually doesn't go very well, and usually you're just happy. But you get out of the hotel, and all of a sudden you realize, I forgot this, I forgot, my passport, I left money in there, my wallet, I had to run out without my shoes. Whatever it is, you realize you forgot all this stuff. It's too late. They're not going to let you back in that building. You have to be ready for these things so that in the event that something happens, you know what? I'd rather be prepared and never have to use some of these tips than to have to use some of these tips and not be prepared for them.
Absolutely.
So even while you're at the hotel, I see a lot of people, they'll go for ice, and I see, it's just I watch a lot of things when I'm traveling, especially in hotels, and I'll see people, they'll leave their door ajar, they'll run down, get ice, go back to their door. You should have a door closed and locked policy for yourself, for your family at all times, and nobody opens that door unless it's you. Like especially if you leave your kids in there for a little bit and you go down and eat breakfast, or something happens, they go out in the pool separate if you get divided. But your kids especially, they should never open that door for anybody but the parents. And actually, it's kind of funny because when I travel, if I ever have to leave my son in the room for a few minutes and I go out and do something, when I come back, we've got this secret knock. And if it's not that knock, he doesn't open that door. And they can say it's me, but they better know the knock, or else he's not opening the door because he can't see in the peephole. And so it has to be something special for him.
Makes sense.
So Tom, there's lots of little tricks that you can do when you're traveling to keep you and your family safe. And you can something like that makes it fun for him too. He enjoys doing things like that. And it doesn't sound like, I need you to be safe, because you don't scare him to death. You just say, hey, listen, don't open this door for anybody unless it's me. And how do you know it's me? What's the knock? And we practice the knock, and then we go out, and we don't practice it like on the door as I'm leaving, we obviously. But I do see people, I hear people talking about their whole itinerary while they'll be traveling down during breakfast or something. I'll be gone all day, honey. And it's just, I'll just be in the room by myself. When the military, I guess it's because of the military, we had, OPSEC, COMSEC, and those things were drilled into us. And you don't sit there and talk about missions when you're out in public or at the chow hall, things like that. So Tom, that's one thing where people really need to tighten up is pay attention, because people are listening. Pay attention to what you're saying. Kind of when you're in that mode where you might be relaxed just having breakfast, but just be aware that there are times to talk about your itinerary and times to talk about what you'll be doing during the day, and there's times not to. Take care of those things when you're in your room talking privately, not out in public.
Absolutely. And George, just my recommendation, just assume when you're a traveler, assume that any conversation that you have in the room is being listened to by someone else. Am I saying this is an absolute? No. But if you're going with that posture, you're more likely to remain vigilant in a relaxed state of vigilance, situational awareness, a relaxed state of vigilance. We all carry laptops. Some now are just carrying tablets. What happens to the laptop if you decide you want to go out, if you want to leave your room, maybe you want to go for a run, and you really don't want to, put a laptop on your bag when you go for a run? What you going to do with the laptop? Well, we do have some safes now in the rooms. And I don't use the ones that are key controlled. I'll only use one that you can put a unique combination on. I will use those if there's a combination that I can use. If I'm bringing so many things, George, that'll be just too much for the hotel safe, then I'll bring one, or I'll use the safe down at the front desk. But I would consider using the safe in the room for your valuables that you're not going to take with you when you go for the run. And make sure you do that sweep before you leave your hotel. Maybe you're in a situation where there's no hotel, there's no safe, there's no apparatus. Well, can you at least put the laptop in your luggage and use that lock that you have on it, because they would physically have to rip open your luggage or steal your luggage in order to get into it. Use the things that you have. Use all the controls that you have to make yourself as secure and safe as possible. But a laptop is an easy way, for folks to get at it and steal your ID and everything else. So secure that laptop, because Laptops are just left sitting on a hotel, sitting on top of the dresser, sitting on top of the desk. George, we always use cable locks to lock our laptops down.
Yep.
If you're going to leave it there, at a minimum, lock it down. You know, that's, and I marvel when someone says, well, someone stole my laptop out of the hotel room. I says, no, sir, that wasn't a theft. That was a donation. You left that laptop for the thief. That's their job. Their job is to steal laptops. Your job is not to contribute to their profession, but you were a contributor. You cannot have a larceny without an invitation. So if you leave the property, someone's going to potentially steal it. So why be a victim if you don't have to be?
I agree. We call ourselves victims sometimes when things like that happen, but you're not really a victim because you donated that. And Tom, I heard this from you many years ago, and this stuck with me. Theft is a crime of opportunity. And if you give people the opportunity to steal your stuff, they're going to. So when you leave a room, even if you don't use the safe, there's two other things you can do. First of all, just don't leave your valuables in plain sight. Put them back in a suitcase, lock the suitcase. And it's amazing how if things just aren't in sight, it makes them less, they don't know they're there, they won't steal them, or they'll hopefully overlook them. If they take your whole bag, well, that's why you can also, if you're going to leave, you can put the stuff in a bag, take it down to the front desk and have them hold it for you since it's locked.
Absolutely.
Have them hold it for you and get a receipt for that bag while you're out, especially if you're going to be gone for a few hours. There's nothing wrong with asking the concierge, and that's what they're there for. Especially the hotels. I have to tell you, hotels overseas, it's just amazing. All they really want to do is provide great service, it seems like, and they're just so generous with a lot of things. And yet we're still reluctant to do things like, hey, would you please wash this for me? But it's a great tip for a lot of people. If you have things that you can't put in a safe because either they're too big, like sometimes the safes won't hold a laptop, but you're not going to take it with you, and you don't just feel safe putting it in your room because you think, well, if they take my bag, then they've got everything. Give your bag to the front desk, get a receipt for it. Simple things like that, Tom, that a lot of people just don't think of while they're traveling.
George, in a hotel room, you talked to me about leaving the hotel room. So when I leave the hotel room, I always use a little tag that says do not disturb. If I want room service, I'll call downstairs, or I'll stop downstairs and say, look, send room service upstairs. But I'm always going to leave the tag outside my door, just another layer of security to say, please do not disturb. That's just one other extra free layer of security. Why do you want someone in the room when you're not there? I'm always going to leave a radio or a television on to give the impression that I'm still in the room. So you don't want to give the impression that you're not there. So I'm always going to do everything I can to be as safe as I can in an environment that I'm renting from someone else.
And Tom, the do not disturb tag, I use that religious. I always keep that out. And if I'm going to be gone and I do want my room service though, I just stop at the front desk and tell them, hey, my do not disturb sticker is on my room, but I'm not going to be there. Could I please have room service? Take care of the room today.
Absolutely.
But also, Tom, if you're a female and you're staying alone and somebody is coming into your room, there's nothing wrong with turning the shower on when the door rings and then pretending there's somebody there, saying, call out your husband's name or something, just saying, hey, I'll get the door, or whatever it is. Don't make it look like you're alone. Take everything that you can to your advantage, because every little step that you take is just adding or contributing to your safety. And that's just those little things that people won't think of that can actually make a big difference, Tom.
When you walk into your hotel room, George, you walk into your hotel room, and generally in a hotel, if you walk into your hotel room and you close the door and you look at the door, right facing you is going to be a schematic of where you are in relation to where the fire exits are and what to do if there's a fire. Now, I know this is going to be over the top for some folks, but I've been in the business of personal protection. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that out. I'm either going to take some notes from it, or I'm going to make a copy of it that I'm going to keep with me, because I've got somebody that I'm responsible for. If I'm on vacation, I may not be as dramatic, but I'm going to look at that and I'm going to make sure I walk that area. I'm going to know where those exits are. So it's put there for a purpose. When you leave the room, if something should happen and you had to call the hotel back, do you know the phone number to the hotel? Do you know the address of where you're really staying at? You're not just in at the Marriott. The Marriott's all over the world. Which one exactly are you at? Let's say you go out driving, you get lost, George. You get lost, and you say, "Well, I got to get back." Do you have the name of the hotel? Do you have the phone number to the concierge? Do you have someone's name you can call directly? Do you have the manager's name? Make sure before you walk out of that hotel that you have the information you need in case you need to get back to the hotel or you need information from the hotel.
And Tom, I like when the concierge actually has business cards, because I will always take a business card so that I have the number, the address. I can't tell you how many times I see people get into a taxi or heard of people getting into a taxi and they're like, I'm going to this hotel. And you're right. There'll be multiple hotels like that in the city, and you're on the other side of town because you were out bar hopping or whatever you were doing. And now you're just, I don't know which one I was supposed to be at. And that's just not a good situation that you want to be in. So you always want to make sure you know the address of the one that you were actually in and have a number for to call them. Also, Tom, when I'm at a hotel, and if you're going to go out and you're going to be out traveling, and again, with taking your bags and everything with you, or not taking them, because you want to be out, you're going to, okay, I've had my business day, I want to go out, I want to relax, I want to see the town for a little while. I don't advertise that, but I see a lot of people, they'll be talking to the concierge, they'll be talking to people, and they'll be telling them, I just have to get back to this, they'll be telling them everything that they're going to be doing that day. And they just don't do that. Right? It's probably one of the worst things that you can do. I know that the people at the hotels are friendly, and I know you want to be friendly to them, and you can be, but you can be friendly without telling people everything you're going to do that day or what your plans are for that day.
Yeah, I agree, George. You keep your information as close to you as possible. And we talked earlier, but since we're talking a little bit about traveling outside the hotel, let's talk a little bit more about the wallet now. There's two things I keep separate. I keep my my identification information separate from my money in case I'm accosted and I'm robbed. Let's say I'm robbed at gunpoint, which has happened a few times in my lifetime. And basically the thief wants money. I can reach into my left pocket and give the money without going into my right pocket and giving the wallet. So once again, you're going outside the hotel, do that quick inventory. Do I need everything that's in here? Or do so many things I can take out and place in a safe? Do I actually need my passport, or can I travel with this driver's license as an ID for based on where I am if I'm not outside the country? And I can have these things locked and I only have to have what I need. Do I need $600 in my pocket, or will $35 do? And another thing, George, is and I have many friends that don't do this. Some people don't carry cash anymore now with the advent of debit cards, etc. But every now and then you get in a situation you have to have cash. George, when you and I were in Nashville, a power outage at one point, and it was really weird. And we were trying to get gas, and they couldn't take debit cards. They could only the only way you would get gas is if you had cash. And there were like 8 of us there. No one had cash but me. So, well, man, I don't use cash anymore. I use debit cards. But the machines were down. So, it's always wise to have cash. It's a universal language, is US dollars. So I always have, a certain amount of money with me at all times, and I'll keep it separate from my wallet.
Absolutely. And Tom, anything else you want to add while you're actually staying at the hotel before I kind of get into as you're departing?
Well, the other things, you touched on a number of them. Someone knocking on the door. If it's not a friend of yours that you're expecting and personally, then you don't want to give that person admission. If you're not comfortable with that person continuing to knock on your door, then please call downstairs. Make sure that phone in your room gets an outside line. If something happens, your battery is dead in your phone, and you have to make an emergency call. So one of the things you want you to do in that room is make sure when you go into the room, check out your room. I was looking at the news this weekend about the bed bugs, George, in someone's room. When you're in a room, you've rented this space. Make sure you're comfortable in the space. Check out the room. I check blinds. I check the shutters at the windows, because I want to make sure that those blinds, people like to be in the room they want to have the sun in the room, so they want to have the shades open. I'm suggesting you that you can be watched that way. So I'm suggesting you that those blinds are closed, and this has got to be a secure environment for you. If you want some sunshine, go downstairs and get some. But having the sun, having the window wide open while you're in the room is not to your advantage. Just be vigilant. I'm not saying not enjoy your vacation, not enjoy your business trip, but thieves are there for a different reason, and people will want to steal your freedom and all your valuables. So keep in mind that you're renting space. This is not your home. You're renting space, so it's not the safe environment that you might have at home. So walk your room when you get there. I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. I'm still looking under the bed in case someone's under my bed. Once I get to that room, George, I'm walking that whole room. I'm going into the bathroom. I'm going into the closets. I'm looking outside. I'm checking that. I'm checking the windows, especially when I travel internationally. I want to make sure that no one has access to my room. I'm paranoid. Are there holes in the blinds? You know. So check out the room that you're leasing. Make sure you're comfortable. Check your bed. Check the bed for bed bugs. You want to check everywhere because you're going to be there for a day, 2 days, 3 days. That's your home for a few days. Make sure it's a clean, comfortable environment for you. If you're uncomfortable, get another room. Call downstairs and say, "Oh, this room I'm not comfortable with. I want to change rooms." You're the customer, so you're always right, and they're going to respond to you.
And Tom, a question that a lot of people don't ask when they're checking in is this room attached to another room? Because how many times have you gotten to your hotel room and there's a door that leads to another door? You don't want to have, unless you have a roommate, somebody from your own company maybe who's staying in the room next door, and for some reason you're doing business instead of going out and around. Maybe then, yes. However, I suggest you never get a room that is attached to another room. And I realize you can always lock that door, but the more doors and openings you have to come into your room, the less secure it is. So you want to make sure that your room only has one entry and one exit. And like I said, I think a lot of people, they just don't think of those things. And they get there and they think, oh, well, this is the room they gave me. I'm kind of stuck here. You're not. If you're not happy with your room, people will complain and ask for a new room because somebody left the shower wasn't cleaned out properly, but they won't do it for security matters. And that's more important to make sure that you're safe, secure, because like Tom said, you want to enjoy your vacation. You want to have fun while you're there, but you're not going to have fun if something happens to you. And I know too many people who have had things happen to them at hotels that completely ruined their entire location or vacation. So Tom, one of those things is when you're leaving. You're actually really vulnerable because you're really relaxed when you're leaving. Like, okay, my stay's over. I just got to get back home, and here I am. I'm exiting, so I am kind of like I'm free and clear. I'm heading to the airport and getting back to my normal life. If you're letting everybody know because hey, I'm getting a taxi to the airport, this is when it's really important to stay with your luggage because I can't tell you how many people. And I've heard celebrities tell this story where they got to the airport. And when they got their bags out of the car, they're like, well, where's my other bag? Back at the hotel. Well, that bag is gone. And don't think that just because everybody who works at the airport, that they're not going to take advantage of a situation if they actually have one. And don't think that they don't make mistakes. Somebody else might have put other bags around your bags, and somebody else grabbed the wrong bag. Things can happen. At that point when you're leaving, that's when you need to be extremely vigilant and careful about your luggage and your belongings, because something happening at the very end when you get home or get to the airport and realize that's when you lost something, that's when something happened, it takes away all the fun, all the joy that you just had of that trip that you did enjoy up until that point. So Tom, anything you want to add for the departure?
Yeah, there are two things, George, and one of them is the service you're going to use. Are you going to be in your own rental car? Well, then it's a no-brainer. You're going to place your bags in your rental car and you're going to depart and head to the airport. That's a no-brainer. Are you going to call for a car service like a Lyft or an Uber or a taxi? If you're going to call either one of those, I'm going to say take a few moments to make absolutely sure that the person that comes to the hotel to pick you up is in fact the person. We both know you can pull up online and you can look and see the license plate and the picture of the person that's going to be picking you up. Okay, let's make sure. Let's ask him, yes, sir. And you're here to pick me up. And what is your name? Well, if he says his name is Joe Splittinggates and it's supposed to be John Smith, obviously he's not the guy there to pick me up. Do the license plates coincide with the license plate number that was sent to me online? If it's a taxi, it's a taxi cab, generally they're going to have on the right-hand side their license and their photograph. I had a question about your name, John Smith. John Smith? License number, John Smith? Certification number, sir? That might make him feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to make me feel very comfortable. I want to make sure that we've got the right person driving me, and this just isn't a thief that just jumped in the car that's going to take me or take my luggage and take me for a ride. So that trip to the airport, we just want to make sure, because there have been stories of people impersonating Uber drivers, and they actually been crooks. And now you're in the hands of this person that you don't know because you didn't take the time. Because what do most of us do now, George? We leave work, we leave the hotel, we leave the restaurant. We're obsessed with walking around like this. And we've given up situational awareness because checking that email, checking that text message, checking that Facebook post has become more important than our personal safety.
And Tom, it's funny because I always like to think, if you're truly going to keep yourself secure, one of the things I like to do is actually think, well, if I was going to take advantage of somebody in this situation, how would I do it? So you got to think kind of like a thief does. And the Uber driver is one of the easiest things that you could do to somebody, because you could just pull up, because you know that at certain times of day, in the morning, 7 to 9 o'clock, people are waiting for rides to go places. And if you pulled up and be like, hey, somebody called for an Uber? And then they're just like, oh, they must have, well, okay. Somebody else would be like, hey, no, I'm here. Does somebody else need a ride somewhere? And it's so easy for people just to fall into that and be like, yeah, I'll take a ride. I mean, I didn't call you, but sure. I don't know who you are. You're not even a taxi. But this Uber service, while it offers a great service for the community, it also offers a lot of challenges that people don't think of. Don't think that just because somebody comes up and they claim that they're an Uber driver, that they are. If they are, they have to have some identification showing that they're an Uber driver. Make sure you're checking for those things, because Tom's right. People will just take, oh yeah, it's an Uber driver. They get in the car and the first thing they're doing is they're checking their phone. They're on the phone. They're just not really paying attention to what's going on. And you will, at that point, become a victim, because again, it's an opportunity. You're giving somebody the opportunity to take advantage of you. And the more you can take away those opportunities, the more you can mitigate those risks, the safer you'll be on your travel, and the better time that you're going to have overall. You're not going to inconvenience. You're really not inconveniencing yourself if everything that you take is a step towards your personal security. And these are good habits. A lot of times in security, we do these things kind of automatically, but sometimes your spouses travel without you, or sometimes you're traveling with your spouse, sometimes you're traveling with your kids. Your role changes depending on kind of who's with you. If I'm traveling by myself, I can pretty much be any way I want to, because I've got my own kind of way of doing things. When my kids are with me, I have to act a little bit different, because now I have to take care of my child also. If something happens and I'm by myself, yes, you can take care of yourself, and yes, you can actually become part of the solution for taking care of certain things. But when you have your children with you, if your wife with you, your main job now isn't there to help the community. It's to help your family, get your family out safely. And you have to realize that as you're traveling, you think, I've just always got these things taken care of. Well, teach these things to your family as they travel also, or your loved ones, so that they remain safe. Because the worst thing that could possibly happen is somebody that you love comes home from a vacation or from a travel, and they tell you that they became a victim of some kind of theft or some kind of scam or some kind of fraud that ruined their entire vacation, and you knew better, but you never talked to them about it, or you never took the time to teach them a little bit about travel security. So make sure you're not just educating yourself, but you're educating those that you love, because this is really important. Tom, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just the last item, George, was about, I live here in the Dallas area, and I was coming home, and I came to the airport, and I walked outside, and there was a really long waiting line for cabs. And I noticed this dark vehicle pulled over and said, hey, sir, you don't have to wait for them. I'll take you, and I can do it half price. Absolutely not. So just make sure, and it gets pretty hot in Dallas. And, I was tired. And it was like, 100 plus. I'm sweating bullets. I want to get into an air conditioned car. This guy pulled up in a pretty nice car. Who is this guy, and where is he taking me? So just, inconvenience and be safe, or convenience and be robbed. So just food for thought.
Absolutely. And Tom, I want to thank you very much for the tips and the education that you provided here today. And I hope that the people who are listening to this broadcast, or if you're watching the review of this or the replay of this, that you actually take the time to implement some of these things into your travel if you haven't already. And we haven't covered absolutely everything. Take the time to read up on different travel tips. We'll put something out through ICR 360 that's going to really cover travel safety. And it's going to have everything from hotels, like hotel security, maybe numbers for the security departments for certain hotels, and you'll be able to engage other people who stayed at those hotels so that you can ask questions. How was the security? Did you, how was the convenience to this particular hotel? How easy was it to get to this location if they know? And you'll be able to actually engage in conversation about certain hotels right on the ICR 360 platform. And we're going to be doing this for both hotels, and eventually we're going to have this for airports also. And it's a great service that we want to bring to the ICR 360 community. Tom, is there anything you'd like to say in closing, sir?
No, I think I've covered everything I want to say, Jordan, except I look forward to sharing some other tips as we talk, some things in the future. We talked about understanding situational awareness, being safe around your car, women's safety, and other issues that we can bring every week. Look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Tom. And thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, you can, and if you're watching the replay even, go ahead and put those questions in the chat section down below this video, because we'll be monitoring that chat section all week, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you put in there. Or if you have suggestions for something you would like to have us cover when it comes to personal safety for yourself or your family, and we'd be happy to help you with anything that we can to make this video series the most value to you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next Wednesday.